right, y'all. Welcome to Facts Over Feelings. This is your boy Chris once again, bringing you live from the basement to talk to you about some of the hardest hitting facts that we are currently faced with today. So I want to welcome you all to Tariff Tuesday. It's the first one, the show where we break down what rising costs are really doing to your wallet, not just prices at the pump or the grocery stores, but the policies and power structures driving them. Every Tuesday, we expose the hidden costs of surviving in America. Today, it's medical debt and why in this so-called free market, it can destroy your life. So I want you to think about this. This is real people with real damage, right? When we talk about medical debt. So I want to roll this clip for you so you can see exactly what I'm talking about.
Year-old grocery store employee is getting a helping hand from some loyal customers. Gary Sailing bags groceries in St. George, Utah. The California native is a retired architect, but had to go back to work to pay off about $80,000 in medical debt from his late wife. When some customers heard about his financial challenges, they decided to do something to help him out.
So we started a fundraiser, and people have been messaging saying that they see him all the time and they really love him. He's always nice, he's always kind, he's always greeting them and smiling.
There is no way I'm a hero. I am not an angel, and I'm certainly not a saint. I made the promise to keep her at home and never put her in a nursing home because I took vows.
The organizer of the fundraiser says she wants to raise enough money so Sailing can retire. So far, about $2,000.
What are we doing? We're talking about medical debt. So, Mr. Sailing, salute to you. Hats off to you. 80 years old, working off to pay your wife's $80K in medical debt. That's absolutely crazy to me. We live in a reality where we want to normalize working until you're 80 years old because his wife just happened to be ill. The crazy part about it is this isn't rare. In fact, according to a 2022 study from the Kaiser Family Foundation, over 100 million Americans carry some form of medical debt. Because nothing says exceptional nation like owing thousands of dollars for getting a fever. Right? And here's the crazy part. When you think about that, that's $220 billion. And that's more than the GDP of Greece. But hey, we're at least number one in something. One of the largest categories of consumer debt is medical debt. And the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau found that 1 in 5 credit reports contain medical debt. So basically, if you ever stubbed your toe, and I know we all have, and you went to urgent care, congratulations, you might not be able to get a loan. That's how it works. It's also, the medical debt is the leading cause of personal bankruptcy. So you think about this, the American dream, work hard, stay healthy, and you still go bankrupt from an x-ray? And that's according to the National Consumer Law Center. So if you're wondering what a broken system looks like, you're looking at it. So Americans did have something to fight back. We had protection, and it was called the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And they were our big fix until they weren't, right? So in January 2025, CFPB Director Rohit Chopra finalized a rule to the CFPBs that was aimed to remove $49 billion, which for the record is less than we spend on office snacks at WeWork. And that's just a medical debt from credit reports. It was projected that this would have raised credit reports by an average of 20 points, which is the difference between renting a decent apartment and living in your parents' basement. And according to NPR, that would have unlocked over 22,000 mortgages. Unless, of course, Wall Street has a better use for your suffering. Spoiler, they do. And that was all per year. So that brings me back to my next point. This is the official withdrawal, essentially saying, hey, this is the action that we're going to take. We're going to eliminate this. Even though this rule went into a few months back, we're going to get rid of it. But I want to highlight this one section because I think for me, this hits the hardest. Maybe it will for you. Second, research has shown that medical debt has limited predictive value in predicting future default for credit underwriting purposes. So let me get this straight. You're telling me that medical debt has limited predictive value, but if you have thousands and thousands and thousands of people filing bankrupt because of it, how does that not affect underwriting? Any person with half a brain understands that that's going to affect underwriting, right? This is what I'm talking about. And so then we fast forward, right? They ruled this. Chopra was fired. Wall Street cheered. And by spring, the CFPB was siding with the credit industry lawsuits to overturn its own rule. And you want further proof of this? I can give you further proof, right?
All right, 2 weeks ago, we pledged to closely track wealth and power and the powerful economic forces that are shaping your daily life and threatening your rights. Today, we continue that coverage by spotlighting the work of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or the CFPB, under the leadership of the director, Rohit Chopra. Few government officials have been more despised by Wall Street than Chopra. As a relentless enforcer of consumer protections, he's delivered for working families during his tenure. His resume includes removing medical debt from credit reports, capping overdraft and credit card.
Let me make sure you can see me with this one. Why is this a bad thing? Remove medical debt from credit reports. Oh, that sounds terrible. Sounds terrible. It's going to bankrupt us all. Capped overdraft and credit card junk fees. Expanded consumer control over personal data. Forgave more than $10 billion in student loan debt. Forced corporate offenders like Wells Fargo to return $6 billion to consumers. Why is this a bad thing? Why is this a bad thing? Am I the only one that's crazy right now? Like, how is this not a bigger deal that, the streets call them the anti-scam police, right? How is it not a bigger deal that they were dismantled? So step one was reversing this. Step two is dismantling it. CFPB, gone. Wipe your fingers of it. Your hands. It's gone. Just think about that. Listen, this wasn't democracy failing. This was corporate greed, live and unfiltered. And the system isn't broken, it's working as designed. And that's the sad part about it. And I want to show you and just dive into one more thing for you. Look at this chart. Look at this chart. Since 1980, the average worker wages have increased just 17%. Slow and steady wins the race. Not if you're in the United States. If your definition of progress is barely keep your lights on. Meanwhile, corporate profits, let me make sure you can see me, have risen over 315%. Because somebody's got to pay for that private jet. They on there popping bottles, hey, doing all of that. They want to act like they aren't, but that's what they're doing. While people are filing bankrupt because of medical debt. So I want to show you this, and this will illustrate it even better. If you look at this chart on the screen, the bottom line, this is, you guessed it, this is wage growth. This top line, this is corporate profits. So 1980, they're all relatively flat. And then globalization. And this is the part where I will agree with the current administration about. because globalization was a part of this issue. When you have the opportunity to make cheaper goods, it forces companies to do things like offshoring, right? And then if you look at this middle line, this is the GDP growth. So if you think about this, GDP per capita is double. Yet somehow you have an 80-year-old man still bagging groceries to pay for his wife's medical debt. Make it make sense. And the worst part is those gains aren't showing up in people's paychecks. So CEO pay up 980%. Profits, record highs. Regular people, same rent, same debt, and you guessed it, the same story. And why, you ask? Offshoring, I mentioned it, deregulation, corporate consolidation. Think, and just on that point of corporate consolidation, I mean, just think about, and I came from the telecom industry, spent 14 years there. Think about how many cell phone carriers there used to be. You talk about choice. Now there's what, the big three? How does that benefit the consumer? Just asking. The gig economy, the Uber drivers, the Lyft drivers, and the intentional decoupling of productivity from pay. So no, the system isn't failing. It's doing exactly what it was built to do. Make sure that you don't win. Make sure that you don't win. So I want to get into a little bit of a fix, because I know I talk about a lot of problems, but I want to get into a fix. And this one for me is personal because, you know, I feel like there's an opportunity to always change the world. Any time that I have a chance, I pay it forward to help people, because that's what we should do as Americans. That is part of the American dream. If your kids are playing outside, your neighbor across the street or your neighbor next door should also keep an eye out on your kid. It takes a village. Remember that saying, it takes a village? Remember that saying, love thy neighbor? These are real things. These are American values that we've just conveniently lost focus of. So with that being said, I thought about a fix and I put it to paper. Took me a few weeks, but I did it. Do I know if it's going to go anywhere? Nope. But it was worth my time to do. And I, along with everyone that draws eyes to this video, we can put some real effort together to potentially get this in front of the right eyes to make this happen. So if you think about it this way, we currently spend $5.6 trillion annually. 5.6. It's a lot. And we still managed to surprise bill you for riding in the ambulance that didn't offer snacks, they didn't offer beer, they didn't offer apples, milk, water. They offered nothing. And how much money did that cost you? Yeah, they saved your life. I get it. I'm being overly theatric for a reason before you jump in the comments and start talking about how, you know, dramatic I am. Look, this is YouTube. That's what we do. We're dramatic. It's kind of the point of it. But if you see in this multiple page document, per section 2 of the Secure Act, and I'll share my screen so you can see this, but I call this the American Protection Framework Act of 2025, also known as the Secure Act. So what is the Secure Act? Simplified essential coverage using reformed economics. Kind of catchy, huh? Right? So for Section 2 of the Secure Act, there's fragmented channels, fragmented insurance channels, and they still can't guarantee the basics. Millions go unprotected. It's estimated that 23 million people are uninsured right now. And if you look at this big, beautiful bill that's currently, I don't know where it's at right now, but that is potentially going to strip another 10 million people over the next decade. So think about that. Thousands are already going bankrupt. How many more people are going to go bankrupt? And coverage depends on your job, your zip code, and your credit score. It's a harsh reality, but it's the truth. The Secure Act changes that. Section 3 of the Secure Act guarantees Tier 1 coverage, so health, auto, home, otherwise known as the basic human dignity starter pack, no deductibles, income-based pricing, health, auto, home. Think about that. No deductibles, income scaled, managed by the states. Tier 2, still market-driven for extras like dental, vision, concierge. You want capitalism? Cool. But stop letting it punish people for trying to live. And here's the crazy part. If we get into Section 5, Section 5 projects national savings up to $2 trillion per year. So we're thinking over a 10-year period, we're talking $5 to $6 trillion in savings. So maybe we just need to stop pretending that this is complicated and admit we like it messy. We like it messy. You can look at the headlines every day, and I'm sure we will dive into some of those throughout the week, but we like it messy. The reality. We also like messy down in Miami, but we like it messy. Under the Secure Act, the average household cuts their insurance closing costs by over 80%. That's crazy. And so just to give you a little bit more insight, and I'm not going to go through this whole doc because when I tell you it's a lot, it's a lot. And you can kind of go through this. There's 13 sections, and basically, we outline some of the problems, what the two-tier model actually is, how we would implement it. We have CBO modeling for the economic impact analysis, what the transition strategy looks like for the insurance industry over the next 3 to 5 years, legal and regulatory. We have a lot. We have a lot in here, and I just realized some of this is duplicated. But look, we've done a lot of work. We've done a lot of things to put this together, and it can work. It can work. It can really, really work. So let me just go down here, and I'll just show you just a little bit about the two-tier system. Tier 1, mandatory nonprofit coverage for health, home, and auto, managed by states, fully portable, cost capped by income. Tier 2, optional private plans for elective care, premium upgrades, and bundled enhancements, market-driven, flexible, and scalable. Tier 1 guarantees health, primary, chronic, behavioral, emergency, maternal, preventative care with no deductible. Home, full protection up to a state index cap. So think about cost of living, right? Because that factors in cost of living in a state like California. Again, these are examples. $1.5 million, you will be covered, up to $1.5 million. In a state like Illinois, you'll be covered up to $800K, probably in the Chicagoland region. If you're Southern Illinois, it will probably be a lower amount, but the state dictates that. A state like Texas, $500K. Again, if you're in the Austin area, a more expensive area, the cost might go up. So it's all dictated by the state. And then auto, one full coverage policy per licensed adult, includes liability, injury, and collision. Think about that. Here's the best part. Value-based deductibles for property only. So no deductible on healthcare. Homes under $400K, vehicles under $40K, no deductible. Tiers rise moderately based on asset value and not income. Tier 2, it keeps the market competitive. Our modeling shows that insurance companies would barely lose a profit. If not, over the next 10 years, it would incrementally gain because the Tier 2 market would draw more people in that have more expendable income that they can spend on Tier 2 services that they can't spend currently. So again, some of these things, dental, vision, that would be an upgrade. But the average American would be saving 80% and their insurance costs yearly so they can afford it. Concierge, fertility, telehealth, elective surgery, all covered. Tier 2 bundles stack on top of Tier 1 via state-approved marketplaces or employers. Think about that. Fiscal transformation. Our current system costs for all of this, public, private, auto, home, healthcare is $5.6 trillion. The Secure Act, the target would be $3.6 to $3.8 trillion. And that's a national savings of $1.8 to $2 trillion per year. So employer savings in the private sector, that is $900 billion per year, and $200 to $300 billion in the public sector. So that's just some early modeling, right? I'm going to upload this in the next few days over on the website, just so everyone can get a chance to check it out, because again, it's something I'm really excited about. I feel like it could really change the trajectory. Obviously, if something like this ever got up to the Hill, it would be picked apart heavily. And, this has been vetted strong, right? It's been heavily vetted. And so I would expect that. But I think if there's anything that I would leave you with is that something has to be better than what we have now. So you'll be able to check that out over on FactsOverFeeling.com. And I want to leave you with this. Have you ever skipped a bill, skipped a meal, or stayed on a job you hated just because of healthcare debt or any other debt? Drop your story. Share this video. Tag your reps. The receipts matter. And again, visit FactsOverFeeling.com to read the full Secure Act once I post it. Because here's the thing, if everything's for sale, let's finally buy a system that works, right? So look, we talked about a lot today. And the reality is look, we have a lot of problems in the country, but America's still the best country on the planet. We're going through a little bumpy period, but we'll get back. But tomorrow, we're back here with Weird Flex Wednesday, where we call out all of the clout chasers, all of the weird shit in culture, sports. We're going to tap into it. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. I'm working to hit 1,000 subs so we can officially start the Tariff Tuesday giveaways, real prizes for real people being crushed by real inflation. And if you're with the movement, check out the merch at FactsOverFeelings.com. Every drop supports the message. Look at F your feelings. Wear it loud, wear it proudly. But with that being said, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll talk to you all later. Talk to you tomorrow. Peace. If you made it this far, you're not just scrolling, you're searching. Hit that subscribe button and share this with one person who actually thinks. And if you're ready to keep pushing past that noise, tap the box on the screen. I'll see you there.